the students researched on countries of their choice and created their display boards with information about those countries. Through the 10 weeks, as we researched, we also took a trip to the University of Penn World Cultures Day, which is in their Penn Museum. They learned a lot about different countries around the world, such as Egypt, the Olmecs, the Mayans, and the Aztecs, those civilizations, Native American cultures, and some old African cultures. What stood out to me, there were a few students that came every single day, and they showed the same amount of dedication and hard work every single session. As you saw, they presented, that was their work. And I'm so proud of these young students. They are young, but I saw leadership in them. I saw them taking the lead about something that they were passionate about. And today, Senora Ewing and I want to recognize that hard work, that dedication, that passion.
I'm Katerina Durachko, and I did my research on Spain. The history of Spain started with the death of Cordillo Francesco Franco on the 20th of November 1975, marking the beginning of the Spanish transition to democracy, the establishment of the parliamentary monarchy, and the subsequent accession of King Juan Carlos I to the throne. Given its geographic location, Spain has experienced a rich and varied history. The first modern humans settled in what is now Spain over 35,000 years ago. The Roman conquest began in 218 BC and led to a far-reaching process of cultural assimilation, the repercussions of which continue to be felt today. Spain, formerly known as Hispania, was originally home to Iberians, Basques, and Celts. Hispania officially changed its name to Spain. In Spanish it is España in the last years of the 2nd century. In 1492, the Christian kingdoms of Castile and Aragon conquered the Emirate of Granada, ending nearly 1,800 years of Muslim rule in the south and founding modern Spain as a united state. In 1493, during his second voyage, Columbus founded Isabela, the first permanent Spanish settlement in the New World on Hispaniola. Today, Spain is very different from how it used to be. Now Spain has its own cultures, traditions that will continue to remain. Spain has many bodies of water, but one of the most important ones is the Strait of Gibraltar. It's a narrow strait that connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea and separates the Iberian Peninsula from Morocco and Africa. There's an overhead view of it, and then that is what it would actually look like. That side is Spain, that side is Africa. One of the most famous landmarks in Spain is the Alhambra. It's a palace and fortress complex located in Granada, Spain. It is one of the most famous monuments of Islamic architecture and one of the best preserved places on the historic Islamic world, in addition to containing notable examples of Spanish Renaissance architecture. That is the picture of the palace. A famous home to many famous people such as Pablo Picasso and Felipe VI, the King of Spain. Pablo Picasso was born on October 28, 1881 in Malaga, Spain. Picasso was a Spanish painter, sculptor, printmaker, ceramicist, and theater designer. One of Picasso's most famous artworks is The Old Guitarist. The painting symbolized Picasso's own personal struggles during that time in his life. Picasso is famous and well known because he associated most of his pioneering Cubism alongside George Braque. He also invented collage and made major contributions to symbolism and surrealism. The king is another famous person from Spain, Felipe VI. Felipe is the son of former King Juan Carlos I and Queen Sofia. Felipe has two older sisters, Infanta Elena, Duchess of Lugo, and Infanta Cristina. In 2004, Felipe married TV news journalist Letizia Ortiz, with whom he has two daughters, Leonor and Sofia. There is 5 native languages in Spain. some shared with France. However, Spain only has one official language, Spanish. The other languages are Aranese, Basque, Catalan, and Galician. Spanish is a Romance language of the Indo-European language family that evolved from colloquial Latin spoken on the Iberian Peninsula. Today, Spanish is a global language with more than 500 million native speakers, mainly in the Americas and Spain.
My name's Charlotte Crush, and I'm doing Iceland. Iceland has a lot of valuable history. In 1840 AD, cities and towns were developed by Norse and Celtic tribes. They were soon to all come together and they formed a parliament in 1930 AD. Other countries started to see Iceland developing, and they realized that that land was very valuable for overseas ships. So the King of Norway started to convert people to Christianity and soon became the ruler of Iceland. So Iceland became a part of Denmark. For many years, Iceland was a part of Denmark, and until the 1940s, when World War II was happening, Iceland wanted to split from Denmark because Denmark was going to be neutral in the matters of World War II, and Iceland wanted to be supporting the Allies. So in 1944, Iceland broke away from Denmark and they became their own independent country. Iceland has 7 regions. One is the West Fjords. This is mostly uninhabited, but it has a lot of fjords which run through the area. It's very popular for tourism, and many people go up there to kayak and do things in the water up there. West Iceland is this area. It's a very popular place to hike. Many tourists like to go up there and just be in the nature, hike, get inspiration just from the scenery. The Reykjanes, the peninsula has a lot of geothermal spots. It has a lot of volcanoes. It's a big place for like power and get energy for Iceland. North Iceland, it's with a lot of frigid lakes. It's very cold. It has winds coming up from the Arctic Sea, coming down and freezing the area a bunch, but it has a lot of marine life there. East Iceland is a big part of people when they come and grab creativity and inspiration. So many artists and poets will come over here and get inspiration from this area. South Iceland is very important to Iceland's culture. A lot of the myths stem from South Iceland, and there's also some volcanoes in this area. So a bunch of the myths and culture from Celtic and Norse tales will come from this area. Reykjavik is it's the only city in Iceland. It's one of the biggest cities. It's not huge to American standards, but it's very big there. It's very densely populated, so you can very much walk and bike around this area because it's just so small. And as you can see, a lot of the towns and the houses are with very brightly colored paint. This is because it gets very cold and it gets very dark in winter, so you can see a bunch of color and it inspires people, it keeps them going, it boosts morale, and you can just see better with the bright of color. That's present Iceland, but in present Iceland there's a language. There's 3 languages mostly spoken: Icelandic, English, and Danish. Icelandic is the official language. Icelandic is very modern, but it also comes from Old Norse, which it's very similar to in a way. The only Icelandic thing having the grammar and the dialect is keeping it alive is this book. It's a very important book. It was written in 1100 BCE, and it has most of the grammar and Icelandic structure. So if you can understand modern Icelandic, you can most likely understand Old Icelandic. Another important thing to Iceland is its weather and climate. Since it has so many regions, it has different weather for each region, but you can sort it into 2 major climates. The first one is oceanic climate. This is more on the southern part of Iceland. It's a lot warmer than the northern part. It has longer summers, and it will only have snow for a few weeks at a time. On the other hand, the northern parts of Iceland will have Arctic climate, where it's much colder, it has very long winters. Snow can last from September to May. It lasts many months at a time and gets very, very cold. A really weird phenomenon in Iceland, since it's so far away from the equator, it has days where it's full 24 hours of light. So these days will be when the light will be spanning from all day for about 1 to 2 days per year. This is the midnight sun, as they call it. The opposite also happens, but it's not all day. It is about 4 to 5 hours in a day during the winter months, which is December, January, and February. That will happen during those months, and they will kind of be very weird hours where people are sleeping and being awake. Another thing of Iceland is the volcanoes. They have a lot of volcanoes which create their electricity, so it's a very geothermal, it's very renewable. It is a clean source of energy, and it's very easy because it's on the mid-Atlantic ridge. Iceland is in the middle of the Eurasian and the North American tectonic plates, so that's what caused the island of Iceland to form and the volcanoes. So since it's just in that area, it's very geothermal. So a main volcano is Ísafjarðardjúp. I'm very much butchered that, but it's a big volcano that erupted very recently. It's very regular. It erupted recently. It provided a lot of power. It has a lot of heat. Most people will think it's very dangerous, but it's very well regulated. People even watch the volcanoes erupt as a form of entertainment. It's just a very cool way to get renewable, very clean resources on this island. Last thing I have to talk about is the people. There are a bunch of people from Iceland, a lot of poets and authors and just artists, but some people are Björk. She's a very famous person. She was born on December 21st, 1965. She was first in the band Sugar Cubes, but then she moved on to having solos in 1993. She was a big musical artist that came from Iceland. Next we have Halldór Laxness. He was a huge poet and was born in 1902. He wrote many pieces of literature, and in 1995 he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was the only Icelandic person to do that. And another person is Stefán Karl Stephenson. He was an actor, and one of his most notable performances was on the children's show Lazy Town for Robbie Rotten. He died in 2019 on August 21st. Last person I have is Halford Julius Borstenson. He is a professional strongman and born on November 25th, 1998. You might know him for his role as the Mountain on Game of Thrones. He is still alive, and he's doing very well. I also have some pictures. Last thing I do want to talk about is there's a very cool flower growing in Iceland. It's a purple flower. It's been growing throughout the region, and this is a very recent thing. So much of Iceland is covered with not desert, but more of flat ground rather than forests, because it's so cold, so trees can't really grow that much there. So this plant somehow got here and is now populating a bunch of that area into Iceland, and it's regulating the soil so it's becoming more nutrient filled. The only problem with this, it is very good for the soil there, but the only problem is there's a lot of animals that live in those desert-like grasslands. But so it's taking away their homes, but it's providing soil to become a lot of nutrients. So a lot of people are torn on this issue of whether to get rid of these plants or keep them. So people have just decided to regulate them a lot more to make sure they're not killing off a bunch of the space that these animals live in.
My name is Rachel Beanham, and I did Serbia. So Serbia, that's the flag. It's a country in southeastern Europe in the Balkans. Its official language is Serbian, which is written in the Cyrillic alphabet, which is, if you don't know what the Cyrillic alphabet is, it's the same alphabet they use for Russian and Ukrainian and languages like that. It's part of the Slavic language family, which includes Polish, Russian, like I said, and its capital is Belgrade. Its culture is similar to other cultures in the Balkans, but it's also different. Family is very important to them, and they're also mainly Christian. That's their main religion, and they have a rich folklore. The major Serbian cities are Belgrade, which is the capital and also the most populated, Novi Sad, which I don't know if that's how they're pronounced, and Subotica and Belgrade has 1.2 million people, and Serbian food has many different dishes. One of them is called sarma, which is basically ground pork and beef with like rice, and they roll it in cabbage leaves. The area of Kosovo, which is bordering Serbia or part of Serbia, depending on who you ask, is disputed by Serbia. They don't recognize it. They say it's part of their territory, but Kosovo claims itself as independent, and there's also like fights between other countries as well on that. And the first time Serbia became internationally recognized was 1817, and after World War I ended, it united to a country called Yugoslavia with other countries like Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and like others like that. And in 2006, Yugoslavia split up and Serbia was an independent country again.
Getting to pick a country of choice and show dedication like to that country, and as you looked up information for the country, you learned more about the country than you originally knew you would. So I picked Spain because of my love for Spanish, and my favorite fun fact would probably be something from the history, Granada. I knew nothing of Granada, and probably the fact that Spain still has kings. That stood out to me. Learn as you go. Have fun with it, because you never know what you might learn.
You have shown enthusiasm and dedication towards all activities in our Countries and Cultures Club and have actively contributed to the discussions and learning sessions. Through your participation, you have demonstrated your commitment to personal, academic, and social growth. We hope that this certificate serves as a testament to your achievement and as a reminder of your valuable contribution to the success of this year's Countries and Cultures Club. So, Katerina, this is for you.
Thank you.
Charlotte.
And
This is
Rachel, all the
for
way from
you.
7th grade.
Yes.
Yay. You guys did a wonderful job. We're so proud of you.
Good job. So proud of you.